What's up guys, it's Lord Botha here with another video, and Rings of Power has recently released. Granted, this show has 8 episodes this season, so that's nearly half the series in one go. And it was very apparent from the marketing and the trailers that Rings of Power was trying to sell a very action-packed second season, trying to capitalize on the slowness of House of the Dragon Season 2, and ramp up expectation and interest with a significant increase in the action of their series. However, the result has not been exactly what they were hoping for. As of today, this is where the Rotten Tomatoes score stands for the Rings of Power's first 3 episode release. Now, the critic score is actually pretty good at an 84%, but you'll notice there that the average score for all audience is a 51% rotten. That's right, it's the first 3 episodes of the second season and audiences have already rejected the series. And when you go to top critics, the score is somewhat lower at a 72%. Now when you compare those numbers to the first season, you can see that critic score is about the same, while the audience score is significantly less, though both scores remain within the rotten section. The reviews of Rings of Power have not all been roses either. While many in the corporate media are still shilling for the show, there are many news outlets that seem to be giving more harsh reviews of the show. This comes to us from Variety. The Rings of Power makes Lord of the Rings a boring slog in a lifeless Season 2. The writer reminds us here in the first paragraph that according to The Hollywood Reporter, just 37% of domestic viewers who began the 8-episode series watched it through completion. Yes, Season 1 of The Rings of Power had one of the biggest drop-offs in television history in terms of people who watched the first episode and completed the entire series. They go on to state that Season 2 offers no real reason to believe this trend in viewership will be reversed. As for the season's creative quality, the grace period for this lavish Tolkien homage has run out. Essentially, we're not impressed by the fact that you're making a new Lord of the Rings show anymore. You need to produce actual good television. The writer states a prologue shows an earlier iteration of Sauron played by Slow Horses star Jack Lowden in a jarring cameo. That's right, because they replaced Sauron with a different actor, as they replaced several stars in the show with different actors. All those actors probably fleeing the project after they saw how terrible it was doing. Facing an orc rebellion led by Adar, who engineered the eruption of Mount Doom and establishment of Mordor in one of Season 1's breakout episodes. I could not tell you why these two parties are at odds, nor why Sauron chooses not to reveal himself when he ventures into Mordor in the premiere before changing course for Celebrimbor's home base. I also could not explain the various political factions sparring for control of Numenor, which appear in only a single episode throughout the first half of the season, yet seem to carry some importance I was not able to discern. I could not even discern where different subplots were unfolding in relation to one another, and often found myself yearning for a Game of Thrones style map to open each episode. You know you've done a shit job of world building if people can't tell what factions are which, who's fighting who, or even where things are in relation to each other in the world you've created. Especially when it's supposed to be somebody else's world that's already been created for you and you're just adapting. Rather than a thrilling sense of discovery, the Rings of Power instead instills a bleary disorientation, like you've shown up to a college lecture without doing the required reading. The only difference is that as a student, when you're doing the reading, you actually have to picture and use your imagination and do some actual legwork yourself to understand what the story's going on, what that looks like, what the characters look like, how they're interacting, how they might be saying things to one another, their interactions. Here on the screen, that should all be done for you. And yet they've done such a piss poor job, they can't even catch up with college novel reading. Here's what I think is the best part of the review. When I told a family member I was reviewing this season, they expressed surprise. They hadn't heard of a show set in Middle-earth. We soon realized they had watched the entirety of Season 1 and forgotten not only the details, but its very existence. That's the problem with the show. Not only is it just bad, it's bad and it's forgettable. This might be a niche comparison, but do you remember Matt Damon's character in Ocean's 11? And when he's told he's going to have that meeting with the owner of the casino, and he's told when he plays this character that he's supposed to play, that he's supposed to be funny but not make him laugh, be direct and not curt and things like that. And they literally tell him he has to meet you, know who you are, and then forget about you as soon as you walk away. That's what this show is. And like I said, this is not the only online negative review. This is from the New York Post. Rings of Power Season 2, not as bad as the haters say, but still worse than it should be. Wow, what a glowing defense of this show, New York Post. You're really going to bat for them there. Hey, this show isn't as shit as the people who really dislike it says, but yeah, it's still pretty shit. This one's from The Wrap. The Lord of the Rings of Power Season 2 review. TV's most expensive series remains stunningly boring. And it's not just the Rotten Tomatoes scores or the negative reviews from the corporate media, it's also the viewership numbers themselves that are a problem. This comes to us from That Park Place. The Lord of the Rings of Power Season 2 seemingly losing viewers already. That Park Place states here the number of IMDb reviews for the first episode of Season 2 and the third episode decreased by over 50%. There are over 3,800 reviews for the first episode. The second episode only has 2,200 reviews, and the third episode just has 1,800 reviews. Between the first and second episode, the number of views declined 42%. Between the first and third, it's a 52% decline. This also jives from some of the anecdotal evidence brought to us by Gary Beekler, Nerdrotic Online, who stated he went to a theater that was supposedly fully booked for a theater premiere of the first 3 episodes of Rings of Power Season 2, and he said about half the audience left after episode 1. He just thought they were going to the bathroom or something, but they ended up never returning. All this is pointing to one clear point. People do not like Season 2 of the Rings of Power, just as they hated Season 1 of the Rings of Power. The Rotten Tomato reviews are negative, the media reviews are growingly negative, and the viewership numbers are decreasing by the tenfold. It would be quite a push for this show, even for a company as large as Amazon, to make it to all the seasons that they have already contracted. There will definitely be some restructuring in the future, I believe. But that's just the latest information on the Rings of Power's performance. If you have your own opinions about this, go ahead and drop them in the comments. If you like this video, go ahead and like, share, and subscribe. If you didn't like this video, appreciate you listening to all of it, and we'll talk to you again later.